On this episode of the WildFed podcast.
The beginning of this project, the goal was to participate in kind of every season we could. Many of these foods you would only really eat seasonally.
When they are coming up to spawn, it's very dramatic. I mean, you look in the river and it's just full of fish.
You could walk across the back of fish to get to the other side. A plant component was bracken fern. You know, this was like a symbiotic thing where the plant feeds the ants and the ants keep herbivorous insects off.
Something that freaks me out, though, is botulism.
Good, that should freak you out.
Just canning my own meat is a little nerve-wracking.
But anyway, when I wear jeans, I end up having to put my tourniquet in my sock.
The TV show.
I want to talk about some of the other episodes that we have coming up this year.
We got a lot of good ones.
Milton Rowe, one of our favorite guys.
Great guy.
Great guy.
I've always struggled to stay on course with cardio. I try to do it every other day, at least 45 minutes.
Okay, good. I'm not the only one thinking about how human beings merging with machines, maybe not the coolest thing ever.
Episode 140 of the WildFed podcast, Alewives and Other Tales with Grant Guiliano, is brought to you by Sir Thrival. You've got to try the new naturally flavored colostrum from Sir Thrival. Chocolate with real cacao, vanilla with real vanilla extract, strawberry with real strawberry juice. I've been using colostrum daily and promoting it as a powerful nutritional supplement for over 15 years. In fact, I just had a quarter cup in my blended drink this morning and again this afternoon. With its ability to fortify your immune system, nourish and rebuild your gut lining, repair injuries, aid in muscle growth and recovery, and so much more, I think it's one of the most sophisticated food-based supplements we can include in our diet. Sir Thrival's already known as the #1 source for premium colostrum, and now they've just released 3 new formulas: chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry. They're lightly sweetened with monk fruit and combined with MCT oil to make them more soluble in water and in blended drinks, all while having the same potency as Sir Thrival's original colostrum. They're so good, I keep eating them by the spoonful right out of the tub. Eaten like that, they're like a powdered ice cream, but of course they make excellent blended drinks too. Again, these aren't those over-the-top fake flavors you taste in so many supplements today. These are flavored with real cacao, vanilla, and strawberry, so they taste great and really clean too. Go to sirthrival.com to see the entire lineup of health-promoting supplements and superfoods and use the coupon code WILDFED for 5% off your order. Sir Thrival. Why just survive when you could thrive? Hey, are you a small business owner in the wild food space or a hobbyist forager looking for a side hustle? Then listen up. This episode's brought to you by Foraged.market, a website for buyers and sellers of wild and specialty foods from around the globe. Think Etsy, but for foods with a story. But it gets better. Not only do you get your own product page to promote your goods, they expose you to a constant stream of ideal buyers, foodies, chefs, and restaurants looking for raw ingredients or value-added products just like yours. Go over to foraged.market/wildfed to get started. While you're there, you'll also find a coupon for $10 off your first order of any of the incredible products there from other sellers. Foraged.market. Buy there, sell there, and learn more about their incredible vision and conservation ethic by listening to episode 122 of the WildFed podcast. Foraged.market, the global marketplace for wild and specialty foods. I'm Daniel Vitalis, and you're listening to the WildFed podcast, a show about reconnecting with nature through hunting, fishing, foraging, and food. WildFed. Food is all around you. Today, I'm sitting down with my good friend, WildFed cinematographer and producer Grant Guiliano, to talk a bit about what we've been up to this year and to give you a behind-the-scenes look at our upcoming 3rd season of the WildFed TV show on the Outdoor Channel. We're currently filming 10 new episodes that'll debut this winter, so we've been in the woods and on the water, but also in the air and on the road too. Grant and I don't get to do too many shows like this one, just catching up and sharing what we've been working on. So this was a lot of fun for us. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope that you, like us, are having a great season too.
Grant Guiliano, welcome to your show.
Daniel Vitalis, welcome to your show.
That's become like my signature opener, but I never intended for it to be. But sometimes I'll see people and they'll joke with me. They'll be like, welcome to the show. Good to have you back, man. I'm looking at your EDC sitting there next to you. So Grant and I have this habit of when we go to each other's houses doing like a pocket dump.
You got to get comfortable.
Got to get comfortable, right? The amount of stuff that we have come to carry in our pockets is significant. But ever since Mine was always like a lot more stuff,
Oh, yeah.
you know, several pounds of stuff. But which, you know, I've been consistent with for a very long time, so I'm realizing it requires a full like a full hip mobility session every week to maintain. It's like a police officer's belt. Like you can't wear that 40 hours a week and just your hips are just okay.
Yeah.
You know, like the amount of back pain, you got to like have a way to moderate that. Anyway.
Yeah, ever since you started carrying handcuffs, I mean.
But once you started carrying the double EpiPen,
Yeah.
I just like that is a significant volume of space that it's taking up in your pockets.
That's why I'm constantly wearing cargo pants now.
So our friend Mark Fulkerson, shout out to him. He's always making fun of us wearing cargo pants because he's like, as if you guys have cargo. Like, what? Like nobody really has cargo. I'm like, I have cargo.
And just for like, what do you think the dimensions of this is?
That's like 7 inches long, probably. So it's 2 units.
Yeah.
7 by what? 2.5.
Yeah, 2.5. And it's like every once in a while I'll wear jeans and just rock it in the same pocket as my my wallet. But man, yeah, I need cargo pants for that. It's funny because when we first met, I was wearing jeans all the time, and you were constantly like tactical cargo pants, like when we were at an airport or something. And now it's kind of reversed.
Yeah,
you have
I started
you have
wearing
your
jeans.
Civilian clothing now. When
Yeah.
we're doing like normal stuff.
So yeah, I went up to Jocko's place there in Maine, the Origin store, and I bought some of their jeans. And I really hadn't worn jeans, and I mean, as long as you'd known me, I hadn't worn them.
No, it was weird. Like when the first day you came over in jeans, I was like, whoa.
Yeah, you're like, I don't know how I feel about this. Jeans are an incredibly dysfunctional pair of clothing to me on so many levels. Like, first of all, they're not really comfortable, and the pockets are terrible. And if you get jeans that are like, because like out in tactical land, you can get jeans that have like hidden pockets and all that kind of stuff, but then they're kind of not always really good looking. But anyway, when I wear jeans, I end up having to put my tourniquet in my sock.
Whoa, interesting.
Yeah.
It fits?
I have to wear high socks, which I don't like, but I will. And then, so I was just thinking, you know, you might be able to pull off like an ankle carry with that EpiPen.
When we ran the 5K?
Yeah.
I had it, yeah, dude. Fucking, I'm not risking it. Man, if I got stung halfway,
Oh man,
my blood is just pumping. It's like, that hornet venom just rushing through my veins.
Yeah, it's an occupational
But
hazard.
I started with it in my pocket. It's just like swinging around.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, you need a way to strap it down.
I joked about it. I was like, I'll tuck it into my waistband. And that's what I did.
Oh, we could put a little clip on there.
Yeah.
What about, because you need something like the classic like Carhartt rectangular pocket on the thigh, right? Like that kind of like painter's pants or carpenter pants would have. That kind of
but then you can't really bend your knee because I wear my pants too low.
So I've got pants like that have the pockets so far forward. Some of my Triple Lot design pants, like the pockets are almost forward, and every time you bend over, anything in those pockets, it's like, are these pockets just to look cool? It's like when you see like pockets on the back of like a vest or something where you're like, you can't even reach that pocket. Is that just fashion?
The pockets of the pants probably like line up differently for different people.
What are you trying to say?
Like I have short legs, long torso. Like we can wear the same length pant.
You have actually worn. So this is what's funny is I'm 5.5 feet tall. Grant's 6'2", and he has worn my pants.
Yeah.
Very effectively. You wear them low.
I wear them low, but also I think my legs are kind of short. I don't know.
I don't understand it. Well, we've had a pretty good season of shooting so far.
Yeah,
huh?
we're already done with 3 episodes.
Yeah, so we're recording this the first day of July. Man, I'm excited about July.
Yeah.
And we've got 3 episodes done. This season came so much faster for us, and for listeners to kind of understand the backstory. I mean,
For the TV show we're talking about.
Yeah, for the TV show, we created the first season on our own. Just Grant and I, and Vonnie was a big part of it. Jesse was a big part of it, and we created it, sold it ourselves on Vimeo, and I've ended up on cable, which was really cool. But to get our second season took kind of a long time for both the green light and the budget to come through it. I mean, it just came kind of late. It was a bit of a scramble to make season 2. Season 3 got greenlit really early in. I think we were still on the air with season 2, just still debuting. We had like 3 episodes left to debut. We got greenlit.
Right.
So we were able to start really early this year, and we're out ahead of it. So far we've done our turkey episode, which I don't want to give too much away of, but it's really featuring Avani's first hunt.
Yeah, it's so good.
I'm really excited about that. We just saw the first few minutes of edits.
Yeah.
They look good, huh?
Yeah, Cody's doing a great job.
Yeah, really excited to have a full-time editor this year, too.
Really talented editor.
How many editors did we work with last year?
I think 5.
Yeah, so last
Including
year
me.
it was, yeah, right, exactly. And for reference, you did primarily all the editing initially.
Yeah.
And then we started to work with one editor who's no longer with us, unfortunately, and then we jumped to 5 editors last season because we
were behind the ball.
We were so behind schedule. But now, and Cody came to the team through you, right?
Yeah, I met him down in Texas. We were doing, I was living in a house where we were both doing political stuff, just coincidentally.
Political ads. And
yeah,
stuff
political
like that,
ads.
following politicians around.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I think some of the punchiness that he has from editing those political ads.
Yeah, it actually works out pretty well.
They're energetic.
Yeah.
So that's where
he's used to doing shorter form stuff that like needs to grab your attention.
Yeah.
So he brings, but he also knows how to let things breathe, and like he gets when it needs to be like a long moment. So he fit in really well.
He's pretty dedicated to the craft. You can tell. Edits on beat really well. I like his music selections. He's great, and I'm excited to see. Because now we'll be able to edit as we go, which is fantastic.
Right.
So the first episode is a turkey hunt, and our plant component was bracken fern, which is cool because that's a plant eaten around the world, right? It's a cosmopolitan fern species,
and it has some controversy behind it.
Yeah, there's purportedly carcinogen, at least a carcinogen or a compound that is converted to a carcinogen when you eat it, and because it's eaten almost daily by a lot of folks in Korea, and there's a high incidence, I believe it's throat cancer. People have associated some kind of digestive system, but I want to say upper, like it's esophageal or just stomach cancer.
I thought it was stomach cancer. I think this throat cancer is the yerba mate in like South America.
Oh, I've never heard that. Well, anyway, regardless, there's some type of cancer that's been at least correlated with consumption of bracken fern, but for us, bracken fern's like a few meals of season.
Yeah.
It's like not something that we eat chronically enough, and we detoxify it. And I think for our episode, we had actually shot a bracken fern sequence that never made air before.
Oh, yeah.
I'm kind of glad we redid it. But a couple cool things about it are, so we do this detoxification process. So we sort of we combine Alan Burgo's cooking technique, I think, with the cooking technique of Hank Shaw. Hank Shaw does a deep dive on it, by the way, on his website, like really exploring the chemical compound and how it's water soluble, so how it can be leached out and everything like that. But the thing that really strikes me about bracken fern, and one of the funnest things for us to film, is the way ants of multiple species patrol it, and they harvest. There's little glands right up at the leaf nodes at the top of the stem, I guess would be the petiole. There's these little dark brown, blackish glands. They kind of look like insect eyes or something.
Yeah, it's like this little node.
Yeah, these little nodes that secrete some kind of sugary fluid, and the ants get up there and kind of harvest that off. And people thought the ants, this was like a symbiotic thing where the plant feeds the ants, and the ants keep herbivorous insects off of.
Which I'm going to continue to believe is true, just for fun.
But the research doesn't bear it out, so that's kind of neat. It seems like maybe that isn't actually what's going on, but regardless, the plant feeds ants, and so it's neat they're always on there patrolling.
Yeah.
And the plant, we call it a fiddlehead, although I feel like it doesn't, when we pick ostrich fern fiddleheads, it looks like a fiddlehead. Like, a fiddlehead, like of the top of a violin.
Yeah, true.
Right?
I never even
like
realized
I'm in a
that.
bluegrass band or something. Oh, that there fiddlehead. But anyway, the bracken fern fiddlehead, they mature asynchronously too. So, I mean, we could probably go out today. I mean, we did that shoot over a month ago. We could probably go out today and harvest enough for a meal because they just come up at different times. It was neat to see. I had known this, but I didn't see it as clearly till we tried to film it, that the specimens in the forest canopy come out of the ground and mature way faster than the ones out in open
Seems
sun.
counterintuitive.
Yeah, except that they got to beat the leaf canopy coming and blocking out light. So they go through their cycle where there's going to be canopy. It's just neat that they even know that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't
know.
Yeah, how do they know that? But very cool. And our basic preparation method, break them off like asparagus, kind of. There's something asparagus-esque about them, I'd say.
The flavor, you think? It's almost nutty. I guess asparagus is kind of nutty.
Yeah, but
no bitterness at all.
And when you say nutty, I would say almond-like.
Yeah, well,
flavor.
talk about the smell that comes off when you leach them.
Yeah, well, okay, well, I'll back up then and say, and we hit on this in the buffalo episode we made in season 2, because we're out harvesting choke cherries. And in there, I'm talking about how cherries, peaches, plums, nectarines, apricots, almonds are all in the genus Prunus. And they all have in their seed kernel. It's funny, I hear this chemical compound called a couple different things. Arthur always refers to it as prunacin. So you get the word prune in there, prunacin. Yeah, like the stone fruits. Or I also hear it called amygdalin. And I believe amygdala like you have that structure in your brain, that fear center called the amygdala. I think that refers to almonds, you know, because it's an almond-shaped structure in the brain. So anyway, it's whatever you want to call that compound, or maybe these are separate compounds. I don't fully understand the biochemistry of it, but like amygdalin and prunacin, or if they're the same, I'm not sure, but they smell like, what did you say, cherry, basically, right?
Like amaretto.
Amaretto, yeah, that'd be the best way to say it. So when we cook these bracken fern fiddleheads, we first cook them in boiling water, simmer them down in hot water, leach them a little bit, and cook them at the same time. And the smell of like cherry cough syrup just comes out of the pot.
It's like you want to drink the water.
Yeah, which is leaching all that toxic compound, which I think is also to some degree is broken down by heat.
Okay.
So I don't know if that water is totally unsafe or not, but I discard it.
Do you find that when you, like, after you're done with the leaching process, and like you're sautéing the bracken fern, you can still smell that a little bit?
Little bits of it must remain, yeah.
Yeah,
Because then when you eat it too, again, back to that sort of nuttiness, you get that almost like almond nutty flavor to it. But then something like asparagus too, I guess just in the cooked texture of it, maybe. I like too at the very end where the
fronds,
the eventual leaf material, because they have that pinnately compound leaf, like when you think of any kind of fern. You know, they've got a compound leaf, but then all of those little leaflets everywhere. It's like a pinnately compound leaf, it's called. When those are all furled up in that frond, it's not like broccoli, but what I like about broccoli, like say you steam some broccoli, and then you, or even rapini or broccolini, whatever you like. If you have like, let's say oil and vinegar, some salt, I love how they sponge that up in that inflorescence part of it. And so I like that
it holds on to flavor.
You can get it all in there. You know? It's really nice.
For sure. And I find that after like 4 meals, same thing happens with ostrich fern fiddleheads for me. I start to be like, I don't want this at all anymore.
This. Yeah.
It's like almost like I get repulsed by it.
Yep.
And I'm guessing it's just like the body's natural reaction to be like, hey, you don't want to eat too much of that.
Yeah.
So it kind of maybe, I don't know.
And they're such incredibly seasonal foods.
Yeah.
So, you know, this is one of those things I always like to harken back to the, you know, ancestral history. Many of these foods that we talk about, you would only really eat seasonally. And then you'd be done with it. But we have this ability to preserve things longer term. So I feel like that ostrich fern fiddleheads after a few meals, man, they start tasting weird.
And I'll freeze some just for like novelty's sake. Like when somebody comes to visit, I'm like, you know, they're like, oh, I'm in Maine, I want to have fiddleheads. It's like, I got some. You know, I don't want to eat it day after day.
Yeah,
after day
like
after
some
day.
point in the winter, breaking out like
a bag or
a
two,
blanched frozen one or whatever,
exactly.
or like pickled. You know, they can be fun from time to time. But
pickled is different too because it's like I don't know,
kind of weird though.
Where's your recipe come from for
Alan
this?
Burgos.
Yeah.
I believe he's got that recipe as like crispy.
It's very crispy
because he keeps them crisp.
I think they're great.
It's a fantastic recipe, and I like them, but I don't like it. All right, so when you take domestic things that we grow, like let's say a cucumber You could eat cucumbers every single day for a year, and you wouldn't be like, these are getting weird. Because everything weird's been bred out of them successively over so many generations through, breeding that has the kind of effect of genetic modification over time. They don't produce any weird compounds now, but
so it's like water.
But the wild version, remember the wild cucumber that we came upon in Texas on the Bamberger Ranch?
No.
There was like it was a cucumber relative, like a little melon thing that we broke open.
Oh yeah, and it was like, they were like
spiky, terrible smelling.
Yep.
Yeah, like the wild progenitor of cucumbers, not really not the same thing.
Jared was like, "Don't bring that in the truck."
Come on. It stunk so bad too. So anyway, all that stuff's been bred out, but when you have wild plants, a lot of times they hang on to compounds that are defensive and or secondary metabolites of theirs that aren't very pleasant for us, and we have to kind of limit consumption. So I was just thinking about with right now we're in the milkweed season.
Yeah.
And
same thing with milkweed.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the season, you're like, yes. And
it's
then
such a nice flavor.
Yeah.
How would you describe like eating?
It's like a floral broccoli.
Yeah.
But it's just because of the texture, not because it's a flower. I guess broccoli is kind of a...
Broccoli is a flower.
Wow, yeah. I never realized
you know what's
that.
weird to think about broccoli is, so broccoli is the same exact flower as cauliflower. Like these are the same species.
Just deprived of light or something? Or different...
Well, they're different varieties
Edit that out.
of the same.
But that's how you get the white asparagus, right?
Yeah. I don't think with cauliflower, though, that it is light deprived, because
it's a different breed.
People grow them right
it's
in
a
their
different
gardens.
variety of...
It's a different variety, but it's the same species, Brassica oleracea, just manipulated differently to produce a different flower head.
Yeah.
But yeah, the same plant. And so, but with broccoli, you've got that really nice textural thing we were just talking about. You definitely have that with
everybody's going to be like, what? Everything is just like broccoli? all the wild foods
all the wild foods are like broccoli.
No.
Well, broccoli's a flower, so a lot of things are like...
But what was I going to say? The milkweed is cool because you can harvest it at different stages. Like you can have the flowers be closed, and it's just like it had a nice circular texture that kind of pops while you eat it, and then then the more they open, again, the more it holds on to that flavor that you put in it.
When they open, the flowers remind me of, they're so intricate, but they almost look...
They're really beautiful.
They're very beautiful. They almost look up close like they came out of a factory and they've been molded out of polymers. Like they're so like perfect.
It's like it's an umbel inflorescence, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a bunch of tiny little teeny flowers in like a big ball. So it's like if you pluck them off the plant, it's like you're holding a little tennis ball almost.
Deflated tennis ball.
Yeah, and then but if you look really close, then you see these beautiful tiny little flowers.
They're not that small.
They're tiny little flowers.
Because like if you think about one of broccoli flowers, like those those are really small.
That's true.
Flowers.
I've never seen a broccoli flower actually.
Really small little 4-petaled flower. But anyway, those milkweed inflorescences, they taste quite perfumey. Right? There's like a floral perfume in them. You remember the year I froze a lot of it. I blanched and froze it, and I overate it, and now I do not have the enthusiasm for milkweed I had in years past.
Yeah.
Like right now it's out, and I've been like,
yeah.
And quite a bit of it's starting to grow in my yard because we've really encouraged it, and it's spreading. But I just kind of look at it like with a slight. I'm like looking forward to when it comes back, because that weirdness in the flavor over time, it's like I don't like to say it's like toxic to the... I don't want to say it like that. That's not quite what I mean, but your body definitely has a threshold for some of these flavors, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I'm kind of blown out on it. But.
Yeah, me too.
But anyway, so back to Brackenfern. It's one of those. I can't imagine. So I'm not really familiar with, outside of like, the Korean foods that filter into American cuisine frequently. Like I just don't know Korean cuisine very well. So I'm not sure where Brackenfern fits into all of that, but
I don't know what they do with it. I think there's
used
powder.
really
I think they make a
regularly.
powder out of it.
Oh, okay.
But
Somebody out there is listening, like Korean folks. They're like, "Oh my god, these guys know what you're talking about." But anyway, we finally got to feature Brackenfern.
I gotta ask my friend Almax if he ever eats Brackenfern.
Yeah, that would be cool to find out.
Yeah.
And maybe he knows it by a different name too.
Yeah.
But The Ant Patrol was cool. You were able to get that with the macro lens.
That's fun.
Yeah, some nice drone work and stuff. So I'm excited for people to see that.
Me too.
And some of the neat things about it. You know how like I think we shot how when you look at it, there's like a fine layer of hairs on the plant that make it look kind of a silvery sage gray. But then when you rub your thumbs and forefinger up that stem, all that comes off, and underneath is like a deep olive green. So I think we just kind of showed some of those neat little things that you only really know if you interact with the plant.
Right.
The second episode we shot.
That's one we've been wanting to do for a while.
The Alewives run.
So amazing.
Well, how do you like to pronounce that? Because some folks say Alewives.
Alewives.
Yeah, the German Alewives. Bring me the Alewives.
I say alewife. Alewife. I say ale. Well, it's like if it's singular, I tend to say alewife.
Yeah, like alewife. So like ale, like beer, and wife, like the person who's married to a husband. I guess.
Very politically correct way of saying.
I don't think that actually was though. I think I still might have not encompassed everything. But anyway, wife, like a. Yeah, whatever. People know what a wife is. So, alewife.
But then when it's plural, I say alewives.
Yeah, right. I've been corrected on my spell check many times with this. Grammarly's like, no, that's the plural.
Yeah.
But alewives are and now here's the other thing. Do you like to say herring or herring?
Herring. I say herring.
Herring.
I say herring.
Because the classic Down East Maine pronunciation is herring.
Oh, for sure.
And when you look at the spelling, you're like, it's kind of herring.
Yeah, it's definitely herring. Herring.
It's like if you harass somebody, there's the word harangue. Have you ever heard that?
No.
Like haranguing somebody.
No.
Herring. Anyway, it's somewhere in between that. But so they're a herring species, and they're really neat in that they, like salmon, are anadromous, and so they're born in freshwater. They go down the river into the ocean. Spend some time there, and then return to their natal waters, just like a salmon does. But a salmon spawns in the river, upriver. And alewives, the heron, they spawn in lakes that are close to the coast. So
I didn't realize that until this year, even though we've been doing this for a few years.
The part about the lakes?
Yes.
Okay. So
for example, like sometimes when I'm fishing in Sebago, a lake trout will have herring or an alewife in its belly.
I think they've been introduced though.
Okay, so that's not.
I don't think they're getting there. Yeah, they're not getting there because I think the closest they're getting to us there is not Highland Lake in Bridgeton, but Highland Lake
in Wyndham.
Yeah,
why did I
they
say
have
ham?
a wild because now we're doing herring
in Wyndham.
The Alewives. So there's a wild run up into that Highland Lake.
Okay.
But I don't think into Sebago. I'm pretty sure they were introduced as probably a food fish, forage fish. But anyway, these fish run up in the gazillions, and traditionally anyway. But the same issues that have impacted salmon, and salmon being this sport fish and an important food fish, it's like they have the charisma that their story is so widely told. Like I bet every year, how many books on salmon come out a year?
Yeah, I'm sure you have 3 of them right there in
from
that bookshelf.
Like each year. Yeah, well, I have 3 a year probably that I end up getting my hands on. So the alewives probably just a little bit more undersung, and you don't hear as much about them. And several other species too that would run our rivers, but damming the rivers affected it. The old logging. So the logging ways, they'd bring the logs down the rivers, and then all of the tannic bark would come off, fall to the bottom, and it would deoxygenate the water. All these kind of things, general pollution from, waste pollution from industrial plants, and in Maine's case, paper mills, which
like
are
a lot
really
of
known for.
A lot of the rivers here had like no oxygen in the water.
Yeah, massively toxic. And so it's funny to talk to folks about. We grew up in an era where the Clean Water Act was already in place, so for us it's like hard to imagine it, but like rivers were synonymous with being gross for a long time.
I lived in a house in Portland, Maine, right on the mouth of the Presumpscot River, and there was so it's like right on an estuary,
the river delta,
and there was a pipe that used to be all the the connected to all the toilets in the house, and it would we followed the pipe, and it was just going out into the estuary.
Wow. No way.
You just flushed our toilets right out into the estuary.
Right. So if you live near the river, you it was the wasteway for everything that you had. Yeah, it's crazy to think back. I sometimes am just blown away, like seeing the street drains all over the place. You know, because you see how much chemical pollution ends up on the street. It's like every time I clean my windshield, I'm always like cringy. It's like you watch the bit that sprays past your windshield out onto the street. You know, the antifreeze that drips out, the oil that's on the street. Then it rains. All that rain water is carried down to those drains. Those drains go out to the sea. You know.
I'm surprised seventh generation doesn't make a product.
When I was younger, I thought to myself, I was like, I'll put water in there. And then I was like, wait, it'll freeze. You know, I live in Maine. And it's like, what if it's salt water? It's like, no, then you won't be able to see out the windshield. Like, I'm stuck with this stuff that smells like bubble gum. Yeah. But anyway, back to these, you know, the alewives were getting down, you know, catastrophically low numbers. So they're like a recovery story here in Maine, at least in some of the waterways. And the dams were probably the biggest issue. So we've had some dams come out, and then some really incredible, elaborate fish ladders have been built. Before I really was into this stuff, like the idea of, if somebody said fish ladder, I would have thought, first of all, that was like a jam band or something. You know,
really bad jam band.
Really bad jam band. And then I guess I would have pictured it being a little bit different. It's really just like a waterway that goes up around the dam.
Yeah.
That the fish can find and make their way up. And so those, some, you know, are often mandated into the dam design now as part of the project. But in the past, they weren't necessarily, or if they were built very poorly in a way that they actually weren't very functional.
I think sometimes there's like elevators.
Yeah, and there's even elevators that bring the fish up over the dam. Anyway, there's been
music playing in the elevator.
Yeah, elevator music. Oh man, it's like
fish dam playing.
I'm picturing Kenny G as they elevate up the dam at Benton.
So I think Deb Wilson, who helped run that fish, she was like a big part in getting that fish ladder in Damariscotta built, and she said that it was down to like 80,000 fish coming back a year, and now it's up to before they started. Now it's, I don't think billions. I think millions.
No, I'd say billions.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I just want to put my pinky to the corner of my mouth. It's in the gazillions.
Yeah, some like, I don't know, 1.5 or something.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing recovery story.
Working, yeah.
I think that was, what did she say, $1 million in that fish ladder?
Really?
I mean, it's beautiful. So a big feature of our episode to, you know, for folks to see. I mean, it's a beautiful waterworks, like all beautiful stone masonry that meanders up. I think it was 69 pools, she said.
Okay.
So it's there'll be a pool that's probably the size around of like a small kiddie pool, but about 5-6 feet deep, and then a little cascade up to a next pool, and then they're not in a straight line; they meander. So the water kind of hits and then circulates, and the fish can hang out in a pool for a while, then jump over that little cascade into the next pool, and they work their way up to the lake, and then they spawn up there. And then I think right about now, all of the mature fish start coming down.
And is that so? When they are coming up to spawn, it's very dramatic. The number of fish that you're seeing. Yeah. I mean, you look in the river and it's just full of fish. It's not. It's not like you're. Well, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say where we had initially started fishing though, before we saw Damariscotta, we had fished at Benton.
Yep.
And there's a lot of fish there, but it was hard to get. Because it's such a wide section of the Penobscot, it's hard to tell what you're... That's like Penobscot there, right?
It's a tributary of the Kennebec.
Okay.
So it's like this...
Oh, wait, what? No, it's the Sebasticook.
Sebasticook,
right.
Yeah.
So it's a really wide stretch of river, right? How far across is that? It's over 100 yards.
Yeah, probably like 150,
so it's
200.
Big, wide stretch of river, so we would be there dip netting. You can catch recreationally 25 fish a day with a dip net. We'd see them going by in the dozens, but we couldn't perceive it till we went to Damariscotta.
Well, it's not as easy to see all the fish because it's wider. But I mean, when we you know, like when you get to a spot and all the fish are passing, it's like a steady stream. It's not like it does.
Yeah. Where if
you
you sat there and you watched them go by in an hour, you could count thousands, right?
Yeah.
But when we went to Damariscotta,
it just filled.
The river was black from shore to shore.
Yeah.
And it was that thing of you could walk across the back of fish to get to the other side, right? Where
exactly.
I've never personally, I'd read accounts about that, but I have some like little clips just on my phone of, you know, I mean, you guys captured beautiful footage of it, where it's just staggering, especially because you can see at the shallowest part of the riverbank, they're not in that. So you see like that kind of golden bronze color of the riverbed, and then all of a sudden it's black. With fish all the way to the other side, and then you see a little bit of that color.
Sometimes
they'll
make these little formations out into the shallow part.
Oh yeah,
it's kind of like a flock of birds almost.
Yeah, moving in school formation like that.
We'll get back to the show in a moment, but first, I'm proud to announce that we've recently started filming for Season 3 of WildFed on the Outdoor Channel, which should start airing beginning of 2023. But until then, Season 2 of WildFed is now on the air. From the 17-year periodical cicadas of Brood 10 to giant Atlantic bluefin tuna to the bison of Standing Rock's Great Plains, Season 2 of WildFed is filled with unique hunts, forages, and incredible wild harvested meals, and no shortage of adventure. Watch Monday nights at 7:30 p.m. Eastern and again at 10:30 p.m. on Outdoor Channel. Hey, if you don't have cable, you can still watch the show live as it airs on friendlytv.com. That's spelled friendly without vowels, FRNDLY TV.com. You can get a free trial subscription if you want to watch Season 2, and after that, it's just $6.99 per month. Here at WildFed, we're so proud to have a second season on the air, and we really hope you'll tune in either on Outdoor Channel or friendlytv.com. Now, back to the show.
And the whole time, the ospreys are there, the eagles, the bald eagles are there, snatching up fish, and the seagulls are in there. The herons, the blue herons are in there. They were calling them shags, the cormorants, seabirds. So a lot of animals coming in there to feed on them, and they were talking about too, like mink, I think they were saying.
Probably all sorts of little critters.
I'm sure raccoons at night.
I wonder if in the past bears would eat them.
I kept asking folks if they had seen it, and I didn't get a lot of feedback. But that part of Maine doesn't have a huge bear population either.
Yeah, and I imagine it's just all the fish that end up dying probably feed the soil. You know, all the feces coming from the fish.
Oh, that's it. Is that the hydrological cycle's always leaching minerality out of the soil down into the ocean, and so these big fish runs that used to exist at levels that would just
blow your mind.
Yeah, like David Attenborough level stuff, where the fish would come in from the ocean full of all those nutrients, things like selenium that are leached out of our soils. They swim up there, they get eaten by everything, or they die, or like in the case of Pacific salmon, you know, they die at spawning, or Atlantic salmon don't always die, but many do, leave their bodies up there, and that stuff goes into the life cycle. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And this was happening at a much larger scale in the past.
Right.
You know, and when you couple that with, so you have this recycling of nutrients from the sea with these river run fish, but it's also, I think we got to keep in mind that there was a passenger pigeon phenomenon taking place in North America not long ago where the numbers of pigeons flying overhead, again, I mean, just millions and millions and millions of birds shitting and leaving eggshells, you know, and dying. I mean, they were also
fertilizing.
You know, they're like, it's kind of sad to think now about how little replenishment is happening. You know, chemical replenishment is our game right now on the landscape largely. But anyway, so these fish, like you said, they're feeding everybody coming in. The challenge for people is that these are herring, and you know, like when's the last time, as a listener, like when's the last time you sat down to a herring on your plate?
Never worked so hard to make something palatable.
Would you say palatable or like edible? Like
no,
the flavor is great.
Fine.
It's the bones.
Yeah, it's the bones.
I have no issue with the flavor. The flavor's fantastic.
So there is a tradition of eating these in Maine, and often what they would do is cold smoke them for like 3 days.
Yeah, guts in. I know they call them bloaters too when they have the guts in, right?
So
Isn't that what we learned from Brett.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's not pleasant sounding. So Grant and I for years have been trying to crack the code on this. I think it started out with just like in the beginning of this project, the goal was like to participate in kind of every season we could, right? It's like, what's next? Now making the show, we're traveling a lot more, and like that's a little less of the focus, but that's kind of what I want to do down the road, when we retire from the show or whatever. It's like I love to participate in all these things. So the Alewives would come around, and it would be like 25 fish a day is the dip net, and I want to at least do it one time, maybe twice. It's what we've been doing most years. We'd bring back these 25 fish, and you're like, what do I do with them? I mean, if you were like growing a garden, it wouldn't be the worst strategy to just put one in the ground, for every plant or whatever, right? Yeah. Because the network of bones makes these fish. So we should add there's a commercial harvest. And in places like Benton, on the Sebasticook, those fish reach a dam. And again, some fish, as Grant mentioned, go up an elevator listening to Kenny G as they are brought up to the lake. But the ones that just hit the dam and can't figure out what to do, they're in like a weir there, and they're getting caught up for the commercial market, which basically is the lobster bait market. So these fish go into lobster traps and then essentially get traded for lobsters and halibut. They go on the long lines for halibut. Yes, because the halibut season's in the spring too. So that's one strategy, is to trade these fish for things that you do like to eat, like lobster and halibut, right? But Grant and I have been like, how do you crack the code on this? And the traditional method, the bloaters, the whole smoked fish, and then there was the ones that were gutted too, and we saw butterfly.
Kippers.
Yeah.
Those are great.
Much better, but still
I wouldn't
bony.
say great, but yeah, they're
very
much
bony
better.
still. But
you
much
just eat
better.
them, you got to get ready to get dirty a little bit.
Yeah.
You just kind of, wash your hands and your face after.
Yeah, and you're spitting a lot of little bones out.
Yeah.
So that didn't really work for us.
Then you can hot smoke them.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Well, let's come back to that. Let's just talk about this part first, because I think traditionally, when this was being done, people were just way less squeamish about food. We're at this point now where everything is so processed for us that a bone is like, Yeah. And I think that go back a couple hundred years, and people are just stoked to have calories in the spring, like after their winter stores are wearing low and there's not a lot to eat and you need some protein.
It happens to me. Like when I get to the river and I see all those fish, when I take up a net with 8 alewives in it, I'm like, oh my God. Like I just feel like I have all this food. Imagine what that was like 100 years ago.
When you were hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you'd been eating, preserved food all winter.
Yeah.
And things are just starting to sprout up from the soil. It's early in the year when they run. So, so I think that, people just ate around those bones. No big deal. You're pumped to have it. But by today's standards, it's just different. It's a different world. We've gotten very domesticated and very soft. And at this point, that's not going to work for folks. Now, one thing that was really cool, when we went up further down east, we went up to
East
Machias. That was also really cool. So if you can picture up the coast, the eastern coast, northeast coast, there's these fish are running up lots of different rivers, and so each one's kind of got its own character, and each one's got its own community that's utilizing these fish. And when we got up to East Machias, the culture around it was neat, because those fish come out of, so they're in they're in salt water, and there's that point where the river is running down to meet the sea, and then the sea is pushing in and out with the tide to meet the fresh water. And so there's somewhere where fresh water meets salt water, and these fish have to make a physiological transition internally to deal with, they've been dealing with salt, now they got to deal with fresh water. So they punch through into the fresh water, and then in East Machias, they're catching them on that river, I think, 150 yards from the salt water. So they believe they have the best fish because they've been in fresh water. Most of us would agree, like if you had to sit down to a meal, if you were going to sit down to a meal of fish and you could choose between a freshwater fish and a saltwater fish, typically the saltwater fish is going to be a better eat. So they consider their fish closer to saltwater fish than a lot of places.
I didn't hear that. That's cool.
Oh, you didn't catch that part? Yeah, because they kept saying to me, Remember Bucket?
Bucket Davis.
Bucket and Brett, they were like, yeah, right there's the saltwater.
Oh, okay.
And you could see it from where we were. So there they had a cool program. They had all those kids, would you say middle school?
Oh,
high
no,
school?
yeah, middle school students. Yeah, it's like they could take that. They could basically harvest alewives, and they had a whole old traditional smokehouse there.
Yeah, so part of their school program, they had to have. Bucket was such a great guy, and he was saying like he runs the program, Bucket Davis.
Yeah,
and he was saying if the kids have to academically be doing well, they have to be doing well in school. Like he doesn't. This isn't a program to like rehab kids who are having challenges. This is a program for kids who are doing well in school, and it's a privilege they get to participate in it.
So they get to harvest the alewives.
Yeah, so they set up a weir right there on the river, and they harvest the alewives. And then the kids were just there cutting alewives like pros.
Yeah.
Butterflying them for the kippers, whole for the
taking the guts
bloaters.
out.
Yeah. And then the roe and milk because these fish are getting ready to spawn. And then they're putting them in the smokehouse and maintaining the smoke.
Yep.
And then they're available to the public for free with a donation bucket. And then the donation bucket funds the school program.
Yeah.
I was pretty moved by that.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
And all the kids really enjoyed it too.
Yeah, they were great. Yeah. Hopefully they make it through the end of the episode.
Every kid I asked, I was like, "You eat them?" They're like, "No, I never tried them."
None of them had even ever tried
One of the kids had tried them. He's like, "They're pretty good. They're okay." Not they're pretty good. They're okay.
It's a weird one because a lot of folks who are involved in it don't eat them, haven't eaten them, or if they have like a story that they tried it once and it stunk up the house and they don't like it or something.
Yeah.
So all that to say, Grant and I have been trying to figure out what to do with these fish, and I feel like we have some solid stuff now. You want to talk about it?
Yeah.
I feel like talking about it, Grant?
I think the most palatable way. Well, there's a couple different ways that I like, but I'd like the pickled version.
Yep.
Pickled, because that's like a traditional Swedish thing to do. Yep. The pickled herring, like you find it at the store all the time.
Yeah.
And that recipe that I think it's Hank Shaw's recipe. It's really
his recipe is a generic pickled herring recipe. But we said, well, these are herring, we'll try it.
Yeah, and fillet the fish, put them in a brining solution. Then let them dry for a long time.
Hang on, back up though. The reason being, the acids dissolve the bones.
Yes.
Because the whole point of trying to render them edible is to figure out how to deal with the bones. Right. So let's kind of give the category. So we found that pressure canning them gets the bones out.
Yep.
Because the bones are basically just pulverized by pressure and heat.
Yep. It's like when you pressure can them, it ends up to be like a canned tuna type of thing.
Yeah, or like any canned kippers of some kind, right? Like sardines, basically. Although we're doing in glass because we're home canning and with mason jars. And then there's the pickled. You get rid of the bones through the process of basically just acids dissolving them. And then this other method, which you did this year, I don't think I've done this, which is to smoke them and then cook them under pressure, but not in a can, just exposed inside the pressure canner. To break down the bones, but then preserve that smoked quality. And that was very good. I like that.
But then you're left with like a whole fish that you can freeze, and that way you can keep it for a long time. Because the pickled stuff you can only keep for like a month, I think, in the fridge. And the canned stuff is just kind of hard to get people to eat.
But the canned stuff, in its defense, if you can get down with like a tuna fish sandwich, tuna fish salad,
stinkier tuna fish sandwich.
You think, really?
It's like a mackerel.
Yeah,
it's very oily. Like I love it, but
tuna's pretty oily.
I brought it to my dad and his wife, and my dad loved it, and she hated it. She was like, "Oh my God, what are you guys eating? Yeah, too strong."
Okay, so yeah, and I think when you've got something oily like that, because I also like mackerel as the same kind of a salad, but I would rather do it with mackerel. And but still, I think having things like red onion, which I know you're probably using way more red onion than I'd even go near, knowing you. you're the like raw onion guy, but yeah, the onions. What do you call those?
Maybe some celery.
Yeah, some celery, but what do you call those little brined
capers?
Capers, yeah. Those kind of things kind of help to make the oil less.
It cuts the oil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we've established that that's gross. You just kind of. I wasn't thinking they were that bad.
No, they're not that bad, but some people.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's the most.
It's not your Michelin star kind of.
It's hard.
cuisine.
Yeah, it's not an easy one to get people who are squeamish to eat this fish.
Okay. You know, and obviously, before we do all this, we're scaling them.
Yeah.
Because they've got significant scales. So the scales, it's unlike a trout or something where you eat the skin and you don't even realize there's little micro scales there. I mean, these scales need to come off. So, but the fish is quite beautiful in that it's silvery with purple and pink and some blues in there, right? Like the color, iridescent sheen of them is really nice. And I like to can them with their bodies pressed against the glass.
Yeah.
Because when you're done with the can, you see those beautiful colors of their skin.
Yeah.
So I like that a lot. And I had one year, unlike the way they traditionally cold smoke them, I've also hot smoked them. So I've scaled them, headed them, taken out the Milton roe and guts, and just taken those carcasses and put them through the smoker with birch syrup and brined them first and then put them through the hot smoke. They're delicious. It's just you're picking around a lot of bones. Is that what you brought today, by the way?
No, I brought the ones that I've been talking about.
That are already pressure cooked.
Yeah.
So you did what I did, but then you went a step further
And
pressure cooked them so
Yeah.
the bones are gone.
Have you ever canned the smoked ones?
No.
I wonder if that would be good.
Boy, people are listening going like, why? This sounds disgusting. All right, so anyway.
Something that freaks me out, though, is botulism.
Yep. It's like, good. That should freak you out. It's like something that freaks me out, anthrax. It's like, yes, that should freak you out.
But like just canning my own meat is a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah, it's every time I don't do it enough to feel super confident in the process, so I'm always back to that USDA home canning book and reading through my instructions. And yeah, I don't like it either. It freaks me out too.
It's the best way to save food. Power goes out.
A great way to save food. Oh, you mean in the sense that it doesn't require any refrigeration?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice, but you also your seals have to be good on the can. You've got to do it right. It's easy to mess it up.
If your seals aren't good, then the food's bad because it's going to stink. But if you just didn't,
and also that you're not going to you're going to feel that little nipple at the top of the can is
not depressed.
Depressed, yeah.
But if you mess up in the sense...
The depressed nipple. It's another good jam band name.
And then if you messed up in the sense where you didn't heat everything up enough, but the nipple is depressed and there's botulism living in that can, there's no way to know.
When Avani first moved here from Canada, she went to an adult ed kind of local canning class. I think they focused on tomatoes there, but there was a very significant botulism warning, given in the class, and so much focus on it that she felt discouraged from canning. And she's convinced that people who can should wear a medical bracelet that says I eat canned food because she's like, you could have botulism and they're trying to figure out what's wrong with you, and you could just sort of quickly supersede all that.
Can you cure it?
I just don't know anything about it really. I'd prefer to be ignorant and fearful of it personally.
I've never heard you I've never heard you have that attitude towards something.
There's not a lot of things that are like that for me, but for some reason, yeah, I just don't know. Maybe we should have somebody on the show who's a botulism
That's a good idea.
Specialist.
That's a good idea.
All right, let's do that because I need to learn about that. But all right, so canning them works, gets rid of the bones. It would be cool to smoke them, then can them, because I do like canned smoked sardines or mackerel. That's really nice. Any kind of kipper like that. That said, pickling. Now, you did the first run of pickling, and you did what we had done, which is head the fish, tail the fish, take out the guts, milt and roe. Milton Rowe, one of our favorite guys. Great guy. So it's a cleaned out carcass, and you pickled that. And what we found was that the pickling solution wasn't really getting through the fish, wasn't getting to the spine, and the meat in and around the spine still was kind of soft and raw. So then the second round we did, the one we did for the episode, we filleted them. So now we have a thin piece of fish, put that in the pickling solution, and it's outstanding.
Great
in
texture.
Fact, they're sitting in my refrigerator right now, and it is taking everything in me to not eat them, because we have not shot the final part of this episode, which is the meal sequence, and we need them. And I have a thing for pickled eggs.
I love pickled eggs.
Man, I could get down. Like, I'm somebody. Oh, well, you and I remember eating those pickled quail eggs on the drive from, I don't know where we were driving back from. Yeah, driving home or something. And it was like, oh, we both like this. It was like, because my mouth starts watering right now thinking about pickled eggs. Man, something about pickling protein is, I just really like it. So I've got this incredible sour, salty, pickled herring.
But it's sweet too.
Yeah, a little bit of sweet in there. Oh, man. Because we use maple syrup in that one, didn't we? Goodness, I want to eat them.
It's all the perfect compliments to that oil.
Yeah.
Give it to anybody. They're going to like it.
I don't find them oily as the pickle. You don't notice that any oil when you pickle them. Anyway, they're delicious.
Got those red onions in there. Don't forget about those red onions.
Yeah, Mr. Red Onions over here. I can smell them right now. Anyway, I want to eat them, and I'm waiting, and I'm holding off. I've eaten like several pieces.
Daniel, we need this for the episode.
I know, but I've saved enough for the episode. But I'm looking forward to finishing those off, and I think that's how I'm going to approach them. It's just that'll be my Swedish style pickled fish every year.
I think I'll do that too, but I'm also going to do this frozen whole smoked pressure cooked because I want some in the freezer. You know, I want to save them throughout the year because it's I just love it as a food, and you can't keep those pickled ones for too long.
Yeah,
apparently.
Yeah, well, I just want to go eat some of those right now. My mouth is watering. Oh my gosh, I need the protein.
What else before we go eat it?
Yeah, well, I want to talk about some of the other episodes that we have coming up this year too, because
we got a lot of good ones.
Yeah, so what's next for us? And of course we did our episode on
North Dakota.
Yeah, our Standing Rock episode. That was amazing. I mean, my back is just finally recovering from. I don't know if I had mentioned that when we did the podcast before, but I'd hurt my back pretty bad. We were out, on the prairie with Linda Black Elk and her family, and Travis, who was on our podcast recently. And we're out there, and they're showing us how to put the shovel in the ground and flip over a prairie turnip to harvest it. And the very first pull on that shovel just made my back go click.
Oops.
And then you remember I could barely move for a couple of days, and I had to be prone shooting for the prairie dogs. So it was, whatever, you're working, you suck it up, but it was hard. I was hurting pretty bad. And then we had that long flight home, 3 flights to get back. So that hip restriction in those plane seats, that was kind of a mess, but I was recovering. And then I went to CrossFit with Ivani.
Dumbass.
And she's been going there for a while. And I'm like, okay, I need to go make a presence there. Yeah. Hey, I'm married to this woman. Hello, gentlemen. This is my wife you've been talking to. So I'm like, all right, I need to show up ready to work. Mm-hmm. I'm going to wear my jiu-jitsu hoodie, right? Because I want to leave there they're like, oh, your husband's really fit and he does jiu-jitsu. That was my goal, which worked, by the way. But I trained really hard that day.
And it's nobody's talking to me anymore. Nobody's nice like they used to be.
Well, now everybody, when they talk to her, they're like, how's your husband? I'm like, this is kind of how I wanted to go,
Great.
So anyway, I go and I put in a really hardcore day. It's Saturdays, for those who don't know, at CrossFit is a community day. It's free to the public, and they don't do their traditional what they normally do for their workouts of the day. It's you don't have to know all the lifts or anything like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I went really hardcore. I finished with I was in a group of 2 of the top guys in the gym, so I just kept up with everybody. And later that day, she's putting away, or at the end of that workout, she's putting away a plyo box, and she's just done this hardcore workout. She presses her arms too far out in front of her, click, puts her back out for the first time in her life. And it was so bad for her that I mean, it was really, really bad for her. And it kind of overrode my own back issue, which was now really bad from doing that workout. So we both just like stumbled.
Walking around with canes.
I drove by a yard sale the other day and saw a walker. And
like, that looks
dude,
nice.
yes, I looked at it, I thought, oh, sweet relief. Like I was like, that would be so.
We got like 7 more seasons to do.
Yeah, I know. And I just was like, man, that would make everything so much easier right now. And then I was like, you can't go there.
Like I could put Molly on that side.
Yeah, a holster over here. I was like, yeah, I can't go there. But anyway, we're pretty recovered now. She's great.
Yeah,
we've been seeing that guy, the Power Doc, out here, man. This chiropractor, power lifter guy, man, he's amazing. So anyway, she's back to normal. I'm like almost back, but she wants me to go in the morning tomorrow, and I'm like, I don't think I should do it.
Take it easy if you do.
I've got work to do. Anyway, how'd I get there?
Just different episodes.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, put my back out, but the episode's cool.
Great episode.
Yeah, the prairie turnips and prairie dogs. I just found that prairie dog skull that we brought back.
Oh, nice.
So that's just so cool. I'm gonna
that
put
was
it
our
down
little
in this
mascot
room.
when we were out there.
Yeah.
Then we're going to Hawaii.
That's our next one.
Yeah, we got a couple episodes out there.
I've got that rifle, so that's my main. So I just got a new rifle for this episode. And shout out to Nick over at Northeastern Firearms in Turner, Maine. If you are looking for a guy you can trust to work with for your hunting guns or any kind of guns, Mr. Nick is my high recommend. But anyway, so I just picked up a Springfield Waypoint 2020, which is
such a nice rifle.
Yeah, it's based on the Remington 700 Action, which is a gun I really like. But it comes out of the box with a guaranteed sub .75 MOA, which means basically at 100 yards in a vise, this gun will hold a less than 1 inch group, which is, really out of the box, really good. Put that Night Force scope on it. I'm really excited, but I got to get shooting it. We leave for Hawaii in 2 weeks?
Yeah.
I have not shot a round through it yet. I've got to get it sighted in, and then I'm thinking we could have. I just want to be able to take a 300-yard shot confidently with that gun. So, because we're going out axis deer hunting on Molokai.
Yeah.
I'm so pumped about that.
Mm-hmm. Such a cool animal.
I haven't been to Hawaii. This is one of those things where it's like I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, how long's it been? And it's like, wait, I was there when I was 19. I spent 6 months there. That's a long time ago.
I've never been there.
Yeah, well, I haven't been there in almost 25 years, which is just freaky to say. So.
Whenever I tell people I'm going to Molokai, they're like, what island are you going to? Molokai? Like, what?
There's an island called Molokai. Molokai, I think it's 10 by 25 miles roughly or something like that. Very small.
It's in between Oahu and the Big Island, right? Kind of like right between.
Yeah, and it's a population of, what did we say, 7,500?
I don't know.
Yeah, very small population there. So, but quite overrun by axis deer. And so that's a cool problem to go get involved in. Mm-hmm. And, but I think something else I've been wanting to do is gig those freshwater prawns.
Yeah, hopefully we get to do
that as well. So we're going to go make a couple episodes out there, and that's really, really exciting. And yeah, same thing, because it's like, I'm sure with Kendall, are you having this where it's like, oh, we're going to, you're leaving Kendall here.
Everybody I tell that I'm going to Hawaii, like, oh, are you bringing Kendall? I'm like,
yeah. Avani at first was like, I'm going on that. But then we have these puppies right now.
Oh, yeah.
And they're at like 8 weeks old. Like, we can't go anywhere right now. So anyway, but I keep going like, babe, I'm not going to Hawaii. I'm going to Molokai. It's like, it's, because I know she's picturing me with like, I've got
lei around your neck.
Like all these like lays are being put on my neck. I've got like a drink with all kinds of like pineapple and like feathers sticking out of it. Yeah, I'm drinking out of a coconut. Like, I'm putting my feet up. It's like, no, we're camping on Molokai. It's gonna be kind of rugged.
Yeah.
But that's gonna be great. I'm excited.
I'm very excited.
And then we go out to see Sam Thayer after.
Yeah.
The legendary wild foodist Sam Thayer, who's now on TikTok. And that's going to be cool. We were talking to him the other day. We're like, Sam, we don't have, because a lot of the episodes of the WildFed TV show start off with a species we want to get. So it's like, okay, we want to do an axis deer hunt. And then it's like, do we want to do it in Texas? Do we want to do it in Hawaii? Or it's like, we want to go after this specific plant or mushroom. But every once in a while, we have somebody where we're like, I don't care what they want to do. We're just going to chase them around with cameras. Right. And so that's how it's going to be with Sam. I think just run around.
It's going to be awesome.
He says to us, You know, one of the things that I'm really good at is catching animals with my bare hands. It's like, all right, that sounds great. We're going to do that. So that's really cool. What else we got in the works after that?
We got
we're going to do pawpaws.
pawpaws
in September.
And then that fishing trip out in Maryland.
Yep, going on an offshore fishing trip, which is like, but, you know, south enough that the diversity of species.
We're like just shy of the Gulf Stream. Is that right?
Oh, geez. I think we're probably going to be out over the canyons if we go offshore. So, because like the canyon run from down there is way closer than up here. Mm-hmm. You know, to where you get to that, whatever that is, that continental shelf.
Yeah.
Kind of drop off.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, that's going to be anything from. I'm hoping. I really want to catch a golden tile, like some of these deep water fish.
Yeah.
This guy's caught 2 opa on his boat.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
I don't know if there's anybody else that's had that many East Coast landings of them. Swords, yeah. Yellowfin tuna.
Mahi?
Probably.
It's gonna be cool.
I don't know. But yeah, but anyway, a lot of species diversity where we're going there. So I don't really know what we're going to get there, but we're also going to do pawpaws on that trip. So I'm really excited to eat pawpaws.
Me too.
I feel like I could eat
I've
thousands
barely
of
tried
pawpaws.
it.
Ooh, I like barely. There's pawpaws are brought up by Baloo in the
Oh yeah,
Jungle Book.
yeah.
So if you barely try
He just talks about him, or is he?
It's in the song.
Oh, okay.
It's in his song that he sings. I can't remember the line. All right, so pawpaws. What else we got going on? We've got
There's a couple episodes that we're still working out, but we're probably most likely going to do a sea duck episode.
Yep, finally.
Yeah.
It's been 3 years we've been wanting to do that.
Yeah.
That's such a fun hunt.
That deer episode that we'll probably
do an archery deer episode on one of the islands off the coast of Maine where it's expanded archery, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, we've got some great stuff in the works. I think we still got one episode up in the air too, so
Yeah.
that we got to land on, but this is going to be a really fun season. And it keeps opening up with so many. There's just so much more to do. You know,
Yeah.
I feel like 10 seasons of this show, and we wouldn't really even scratch the surface of what's out there. I think we would. It's kind of that thing, like the more you know, the more questions you end up having.
Right.
It's like you start learning about something, and then you think like, oh, I got a pretty good handle on this, and then eventually you realize like, oh, there's no handle to get.
Right.
It's like so big. We're still so far away from our sperm whale episode. Or the final episode, the most dangerous game. I would like to do. Have you ever seen those creatures that they've pulled up from the Mariana Trench?
Yeah.
Like
not one specific, but just all this weird stuff.
I've seen these giant albino shrimp-looking things come up. That's the deepest part of the ocean.
Have people ever eaten anything from there?
That's what I'm saying. How do we drop some kind of a little net type device or baskety type thing down to the Mariana Trench, bring up a weird albino
and hopefully
shrimp from
hopefully
7
it doesn't
miles
kill
below.
us.
Yeah, or like take over our bodies and stuff.
Oh, jeez.
But stuff like that is really fascinating to me.
I'd like to do more bugs.
Me too. Any in mind?
I want to do grasshoppers.
Yeah, grasshoppers would be great. I can take my bug nets out into my backyard, which we don't mow, and I can catch a whole bunch starting probably next month. It's like in July it really gets kicking off with them. But I think there are places where they swarm in significant amounts, and that's how they get them for traditionally where they would be a significant part of let's say the diet of folks in Mexico or something like that.
Okay.
I don't think that they're going out and just, oh man, that ant larva that they eat in Mexico.
You kind of dip a stick down into
That's one I really want to do.
Into their
that
hole.
We got to be on top of that because it happens early in the spring. I'd like to go down there and do that next spring, and I'd like to do an what's the turkey species? The ocellated turkey? No, the what's it called?
Is it not the ocellated turkey?
Hang on, let me just look. Yeah, I think it's the ocellated turkey, not the Osceola. Yes, the ocellated turkey, which looks like you took a turkey and then ran it through a peacock filter.
It's a TikTok filter.
It's just an iridescent turkey species that's down there. Anyway, I would love to do those things next year.
I'd love to do all the different turkey species.
The World Slam.
Yeah.
There's the stateside or the
It'd be great
North
to have
American Grand Slam.
one turkey episode a season.
Yeah. This last one was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'm excited to show. I'm most excited to show not just our beginner hunt for Avani, but her training session is so cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some good stuff on the horizon for us too. I just think it's endless.
And the production quality is just getting better and better.
How do you feel like as a cinematographer when you are seeing now that even bad media looks good because everybody's equipment is getting so good? Like there was like the gap between the gap between like the pro and the prosumer and the consumer stuff is just shrinking day by day by day. And now I'll see like commercials that I'm like, geez, that looks good.
The iPhone?
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. But you don't have, it's something that we always learned in school was it's all about like story, not the equipment. You know? It's all about how you use it, really.
I completely agree.
If you think about what we shot season 1 on, I mean, your iPhone camera, the technology on that camera was better than that thing, but I just used it for so long that I figured out how to make it look good, you know?
So everybody listening is like, Grant, why don't you have a Samsung?
I ordered one yesterday.
No, you didn't.
I did.
You ordered an iPhone?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. I said I wasn't going to tell you today. Dang it. I was going to text you and be like, look who has a green bubble now.
You were going to text me. You were going to iMessage me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Grant and I maintain a signal thread because I cannot send him any photographs. We're accountability buddies.
Yeah. Keep each other in shape. Trying to get me back in shape. Trying to get me in shape.
How are you feeling? So you've been doing... So you had a rough editing winter, very little exercise, very sedentary.
My girlfriend and Daniel never told me I got fat. I found out
we needed you to finish the season of editing. So last year, as we mentioned earlier in the episode, things got really busy. We had done a lot of work on the front end, but all the back end work for the show to get it ready for air, it just all came right at the end. And so Grant basically, like your classic kind of gamer, he just like sat there in a chair editing and drinking Monster for like 3 months or something.
Hey, bang.
And I'd go over there, and you got COVID, you got Delta. That was like the beginning of the whole thing for you too. You got like hit really hard with COVID, and then you went into your editing hole. And so anyway.
I would be Kendall would go to bed, and I'd be at my desk working, and she'd get up, and I was just in the same spot, like 5 a.m.
Yeah. Like, that's how I'd feel when I'd stop over. It'd be like, I think he's been here since the last time I came here 4 days ago.
The door is just ajar. You're like, Grant? The lights flickering.
It was pretty sketchy.
I have 3 monitors.
Yeah.
It's like driving a spaceship.
Oh, it was like you hadn't really gotten to do much outside the house for a while.
But anyway, I got fat.
Well, you're bigger than now. So anyway, but then, and I spent the winter because the workload for me got pretty light. Like I have the voiceovers to do and reviewing footage and stuff, but I'm like not like what you were doing. So I got to work out all winter and kind of get ready for this season. And so anyway, but you started back recently. So when we say we're accountability buddies.
Yeah, that's what.
We send each other heart rate monitor readouts for our workouts. So
I'm watching my heart rate monitor, and I'm like, I gotta send a good one.
That was like, me at that CrossFit workout.
Yeah, and when you were saying how you were racing, you and Paul were running.
Yeah,
and you're just trying to keep up with them. It's like I'm working out with somebody, but they're not there.
Yeah, I had a buddy over recently to do a workout, and at the end he's like, and it was the kind of thing where I'd been training more than him, so we do this like kettlebell workout, and he's trying to keep up or whatever, and then he's like, let's go finish off with a mile run. So we go outside, and I just could not, and he was barefoot on this like really gnarly gravel, and I had shoes on, and it was everything I could do to just stay right behind him. I mean, and even at the end he was like, I'm just gonna sprint up to your house, and I was like, okay. See ya. But anyway, well, it's like that 5K I ran recently where your girlfriend just smoked me, dude. Yeah. She smoked me. So like,
we started the 5K, me, Ivani, Daniel, and Kendall, and we're all like, we're gonna run together. Well,
don't worry about the times, guys. This is just for fun.
You and Ivani had said that to each other separate, and Kendall and I had said that to each other. So we were all just kind of running in the same pod. And then Daniel's like, I gotta run. Ivani's a cool
There was
that
that teenage kid who was like way out in front. I was like, I'm not liking the way that feels.
So Daniel like zooms off, and then Kendall's like, she's sticking with you, and she's like, man, it's kind of really making me want to run too now. And I was like, you can go. And I was like, under one condition, beat Daniel.
Did you say that? Oh, I didn't know that part of the story because I made it down to the halfway point, which was a turnaround. I get down to the halfway point. There's no one there. It's me, and I drink water, and all of a sudden, 2 guys in spandex show up, and then turn right around, and I was like, oh, I better get moving.
Yeah.
So I start chasing them. But then I eventually realized I can't catch them, and then eventually turn around thinking, well, third's not bad. I look behind me, there's Kendall, and I'm like, oh no, that pace,
smiling.
she just went right past me, beat that one of those spandex guys that came in second. That was impressive, man. Anyway, so point is, Grant's been training, and I wanted to ask you how you started doing. I became over the winter a big proponent of longer duration cardio stuff, so I really like that, like. Level 2, level 3, cardiac output for
like you're going like 70% of your max heart rate.
Yeah,
think?
Let me just look at my last one. I'll see what the percentage is, but yeah, like I'm really like the idea of an hour. My minimum I'd want to do, I think say 65 to 75% of max heart rate. So anyway, for me, like. This had all started, Avani kind of got me doing it, and she told me, her coaches used to always tell her, you need to do 35 minutes minimum. Mm-hmm. So I started there, and then I started doing 45, and now I like an hour. It's like I really like an hour. But it's funny because it's not that hard at 75%, 65 especially.
It's all mental.
But most people don't want to do it.
No.
People want to do everything but that. And but the benefits to that are huge.
I look forward to my kettlebell workouts. I'm like, oh, I'm pumped. I love doing it.
But you don't look forward to the longer cardio.
No, not at all.
But you're not watching UFC fights.
No.
I'm telling you, man. It gets you through. You need to
I forgot my wireless headphones. Dang it. So I'm going to stop on the way home and do an hour on the rower.
I could loan you
But now what the heck am I going to do? Like the first day I did 45 minutes, I just was looking at the sign in front of me. It says no, what's that? No, what is that, Planet Fitness? You can't be.
No lunking.
Yeah, no lunking.
Yeah, no lunking.
It's like, what else do I do? Girl walks by, I'm like, don't look.
Don't look. Someone's going to ring the lunk bell. Yeah, but if you can be entertained, a podcast, a audiobook, a movie, whatever, something like that, then an hour feels amazing. I mean, now what I feel capable of doing, because I have consistently been doing that for a while. Mm-hmm. Anyway, but I wanted to hear how you felt. You started doing 45-minute ones, and then the other day you sent me your first hour, I think.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right,
Makes
welcome to
great.
the club. Man, I mean, to know that you can run for an hour.
I couldn't run for an hour.
No, not yet, but.
For me, what it is with running is my cardiovascular system gives out way before my body.
Yep.
Yep.
But
maybe, I don't know, maybe if I train like this for a long time, then running will get easier.
Yeah, it's funny because my legs can outrun my heart.
Same here.
Avani's heart can outrun her legs.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting to see those variations.
Like Kendall's brother just ran the Boston Marathon, and what was hard for him was his legs were hurting towards the end. But he could just keep going forever.
But cardiovascularly, it's easy for him. Yeah, man. And obviously, you want both.
Yeah.
Right. But we're coming from different places. But I like the feeling. First of all, after an hour of cardio, I just feel so invigorated. I mean, so alive. But I just love the idea that people can't gas me out anymore. Mm. So when I went to that, well, that's a good example. Being able to roll or whatever like that, wrestle or something. But also, when I went to that CrossFit day, that was really cool because those guys are, CrossFit's really intense, man. I mean, everybody knows it, but geez, the cardiac output and the amount of time you spend above that 75%, more in that 85, 90% kind of red zoning your heart, but they work hard. Anyway, but being able to jump in there and them treat me kind of like I was off the street. So okay, buddy, we'll see what you can do. And just knowing there's no way they're going to gas me out. I do an hour of cardio at a time. So that felt really.
You do it every day?
I'd say, well, it's been a little hard since we got back and I was hurt. And it's been hard since our production schedule really, I was doing 5 days a week. I was doing about 5 hours on the machines plus walking every day and then also training. But now the volume's down a lot lower. But this week I've probably hit 3 hours or something of it. Plus my kettlebell stuff and weights and things like that.
You can see it. You can see the effect of it. That's what helped motivate me too. I was like, all right, I'm just gonna. Yeah. Because I've always been pretty good about not super consistent, but I've always done kettlebell stuff. Mm-hmm. HIIT workouts, but I've always struggled to stay on course with cardio.
Yeah.
And so I'm really going to try to integrate that.
Well,
I'm trying to do it every other day, at least 45 minutes.
I don't think that the effects of cardio are like medicine for my brain, for my mood stability, but also just like outlook and weightlifting. Because what was happening for me was I used to be able to just do, well, you know, like I'm like eating basically like every 10 minutes for all the time, right? So the problem for me, I grew up with not a lot of food around. So the problem for me is like I just get overweight really easily. And never like massively overweight, but like, you know, I'll get pudgy pretty easily. So I need to do a lot of training. And it also helps with my appetite, because when I'm not training, my appetite's bigger, and yeah, like I want to eat more. Like it's not like, oh, I'm training less so I need less calories. I'm training less, I want to eat more, and I want to eat more high calorie foods. And then when I'm training a lot, I'm less hungry and I want to eat better food. So it's interesting, like how my body does that anyway. I think a lot of people are like that. But anyway, what was happening to me a couple of years ago was I was doing my 16-minute HIIT workout, 20-minute HIIT workout, and I'd be like, man, I'm just not losing weight. And Lonnie's like, maybe I should do cardio. And I was like, like, you know, the idea, because in my 20s and early 30s, yeah, like I didn't need to, I just didn't need to. But anyway, she got me to start doing cardio, and right away it was like, oh, this is an antidepressant or whatever, it's like a powerful mood enhancer. So now, like when I'm hurt or I don't have, like if I don't have the time, like let's say I'm like, man, I'm only going to get I've got an hour. What do I want to do? You'd think it'd be like, well, I'll do 30 minutes kettlebells and I'll do 30 minutes of cardio. I'd rather do an hour of cardio. It just makes me feel better. And I just love it. So I'm just pumped to see you doing it. And I'm excited to see how it's going to impact our shooting schedule. Because sometimes we have stuff like, you've got to carry that camera up a mountain or whatever, It's just going to be nice for you to feel that, like, oh, I'm not gassing out. Like I can do an hour straight of having my heart rate elevated, and I'm used to it.
Yeah, I think it's just really important to do some sort of fitness.
How much weight have you lost this last couple of months?
15.
Yeah. Right on, dude. You look great.
Nice.
Yeah, and your arms are getting bigger too. Anyway, yeah, it's been fun. Ivani's also, her body composition's changed so much in the last few months, and I think she's down 15 pounds now.
That's awesome.
I'm probably down about 12, 13 right now. So, yeah, keeping it up. It's good to have an accountability buddy.
Yeah, it really does help.
Yeah, and it helps in the outdoors a lot. That's the thing is, because you see, like, how many hunters, for instance,
we went
get out of shape.
Yeah. I went camping this past weekend, and we hiked up to this fishing spot, and I was just no worry in the world. Just going. My cousin was like, "I might need a breather here soon."
Right.
It's like we're just walking.
That's the best. It's not like I want anyone to be out of shape, but when you get that feedback of like, "Oh, this isn't bothering me," and people are struggling, you're like, "Wow, this is good. This is working."
Yeah.
It makes you want to do more of it.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, that's the thing. And then I think just having the ability, I think it's also different than if we lived in the city and you're surrounded by people who are always motivating you. But when you live rurally like we do,
that's a good point.
It's a lot more challenging to stay fit because, like for me, I like to train at home. Like Ivani likes to train in a gym. You like training in a gym, right? Oh, you do both. Yeah,
I like to train at home, but I just don't have good cardio system at my house right now. So
right. Yeah, and like you were saying,
it's like if I'm training at a gym, it's because they have the right tools.
I'd like to be doing more. Like I would love to run more and swim more outside. Mm-hmm. But man, running is hard on your body. Like a 5K, no problem. But like to go run for an hour, it's a little bit brutal.
That hamstring tendon was hurting for a while after that 5K. Yeah. But that's up with my body mechanics, I think.
Yeah. But definitely in the outdoors, man, I think it matters. It makes a big difference. And your survivability, just your general, like, susceptibility to death goes down so much. What do they call that? Like, overall mortality rate or whatever goes down. And it just feels good. And then I just know so many folks who are athletes in college or athletes in high school, and now they're like 45, 50. They still think they're athletes. Yeah. It's hilarious. It's like in their minds, they're still athletes.
When I gained all that weight, I was like, oh, that's how it happened.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and I think, from the very inception of this show, we've tried to bring a health component to world of like hunting, fishing, and foraging that isn't just about the foods, but also about the lifestyle.
Yeah.
And so, staying healthy is important, and it's hard on, I think the hardest thing is like traveling. I've been bringing those exercise bands and all that kind of stuff, but it's like, it's hard to keep it up. So
we did good on the last trip.
Yeah.
So
yeah. All right. Anyway, that's turning this into a fitness podcast.
I think it's good though.
I think it's interesting too. All right. Well, you know what I wanted to say before we go is that we just pulled the trigger on a new t-shirt design for WildFed, which I am really excited to get out there, because we had done a podcast that talked about the metaverse, and I had done a post, an antidote to the metaverse, and everybody was like, okay, good. I'm not the only one thinking about how human beings merging with machines maybe not the coolest thing ever, despite what you hear on TV. And so we've done this great shirt, and it's based on 2 tarot cards. And so the tarot card Zero, I just have always loved the arcane kind of mystic stuff. So anyway, the tarot card Zero is the Fool, and tarot card 1 is the Magician. And the idea is like, before we start on any path, particularly a path of self-development, we come in as the Fool. In other words, we don't even know what we don't know. We walk through life. Oh, there's the puppies up there. We walk through
which could be yours.
Yeah. Contact me if you're looking for puppies. So, the Fool does not know what he doesn't know, and he walks through life kind of blindly. And then the Magician is the first step on the path, where you realize that the elements of the world can be sort of manipulated in such a way as to help you grow and develop. And so we did 2 tarot cards with our friend Philippe. He did the artwork, and so the
artwork's so cool.
It's so cool. The Fool card now becomes the metaverse, and so it's the classic Fool tarot card is a guy not paying attention, about to walk off a cliff. In our case, it's a guy wearing a Oculus about to walk off a building top.
With a bag of fast food in his hand.
And then the Magician, who typically is juggling or has on a table the 4 elements that are the or representations of the 4 elements, which end up being the 4 suits of the tarot, which are also eventually became the 4 suits of our playing card deck. So he has a sword, a coin, a staff, and a cup. Our Magician card is called WildFed, and he's got a trap, a rifle, a fishing rod, and a basket. It's like the 4 elements of wild food, essentially. So very cool shirt. I can't wait for you guys to see it. So that's going to be coming pretty soon.
Production's right around the corner.
Yeah, so keep your eyes out for that. Some cool shows coming up. Oh, one thing I want to say is we have a show coming up about oxalic acid. I've been getting so much messages from people.
I didn't even realize that.
I think this is coming up a lot in the carnivore diet scene. People are hearing like oxalates are bad for you, and I'm going to interview somebody who thinks they are. I'm of a different opinion, only because they're in so many plants that it's like, yeah, but we've been eating them forever. But I'm looking forward to hearing the other perspective, and just what she has to say about them. So we've got some cool shows coming up. Any other kind of concluding thoughts you have, Grant?
I think that's covers everything for now.
It's fun to every once in a while just sit down with you like this.
Yeah, I think we should do it again in a few months.
All right. Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll get you next week.
Thanks for listening to the WildFed podcast. Help us grow this show by subscribing and leaving us a rating and review. It ensures better rankings and more advertiser interest, which translates directly into better shows, more awesome guests, and a constant stream of fresh new content. Have a question you'd like answered on the show, or a hunting, fishing, or foraging trip you'd like to host us on? Email us at info@wild-fed.com. If you still haven't seen season 1 of the WildFed TV show, you can go to myoutdoortv.com, grab yourself a free trial subscription, and then check out all 10 episodes. Season 2 of WildFed premieres on Outdoor Channel in early 2022. And be sure to visit our website, wild-fed.com, to check out our store for WildFed hats, stickers, and more. WildFed. Food is all around you.